everyone. Thank you so much for attending. This is day one of Industry Week, a really, really exciting week of stuff that we have planned for you. So I am so excited to kick things off. My name is Andrew Duncan. I am the Senior Partner Account Manager at Cloud Adoption Solutions. Cloud Adoption Solutions is a certified 100% women-owned Salesforce partner. We focus on Salesforce customization, implementation, and integration. So anything with Salesforce, we like to get our hands on it and work on it. So I'm very, very pleased to have you guys here today. It's a really exciting week. Today, we are covering healthcare and health sciences. So please wait until the end for any questions that you have. We will be covering them. So if you have anything you'd like answered or see anything during, we will cover them. I promise we'll get to them. And then additionally too, we are doing a swag bag giveaway every single day this week. So please make sure you stick around until the end and you submit your name, and we will make sure that somebody gets a swag bag with some stickers or maybe a couple items too as well. But we are so excited to kick things off. So we're gonna go ahead and move into everything. So let's get started. Okay, so for the challenges of this week, we wanted to take some real life examples. We didn't want to just make up scenarios or just show a demo. What we wanted to do was build and illustrate a point using actual real life examples of some of the clients we've worked with. So given that today is healthcare, we wanted to use a job that is very common in the healthcare workplace. So a director of technology, an incredibly important job, someone that is in charge of a lot of different moving pieces of technology, a lot of integrations. So some of the challenges that we saw with this particular client were as follows. Manual paperwork is on site. So a lot of times, even though a company may be like very robust and even large, in some cases, they're still doing a lot of manual paperwork. Manual paperwork is still on site. It's still, paper to pen, writing things down and not completed in a computer and in Salesforce. Second, we see human error and data transcription. The problem with this human error, it comes in a lot and it's totally fine. It's acceptable. It happens to everybody, right? Who doesn't put a typo? But the problem is that when you have that error, the data that's being transcribed into Salesforce or into another app then creates lapses in the system, which can be detrimental because those little errors can really add up over time and create huge problems. Providers have challenging handwriting. So anyone who works within the healthcare industry knows the old kind of wives' tale, I guess it is, that many people have bad handwriting in healthcare. I know that some doctors will say that this is true. When they scribble down, it can be very difficult to read. So when you have that challenging handwriting that's coming in from labs or reports or really anybody in the office, because it even happens to us, I don't have the best handwriting. The challenge is to understand it and then put it into Salesforce. And then we see regulatory challenges and missing data. So this is something that is very specific to healthcare. Regulatory challenges are much more different and more robust and more challenging when it comes to working with labs, working with HIPAA, making sure that you're up to scale on these regulations and you're making sure that you're within them. And then that missing data can really affect jobs later on, whether it comes later in the onboarding process or other little issues that add up. And then we also see disconnected platforms and point solutions. So when we have these disconnects in platforms, especially for a director of technology, what we're seeing is that they're not speaking to each other, and it creates a lot of issues for that director later on, a lot of extra work for them to do. So we're going to hear really quickly from Shannon, what are some ways that we can provide some solutions for this?
That's great. Thank you so much, Andrew, and welcome everybody to our first day of Industry Week. We are so pumped to show you some of the things that we have developed as solutions for those who are working with payers, providers, patients in the healthcare IT space. And in this particular story that Andrew's telling you, this director of technology came to us and she was losing her mind. She had pieces of paper everywhere. They had SOPs that they had developed around processes that were sitting everywhere they could, except for where they needed to be, which was inside of their piece of technology. And so she was looking for something that was a little more centralized, something that would help her to really understand where everything was in real time. And the added weight of a global pandemic made this really important for her. So the immediate approach that we took was to follow a critical design, build, test solution. So Corey really got down to the dirt and said, give us all the problems. What are the challenges? And he started outlining those in that sort of design Visio to say, here are all of the data sources. These are all of the pieces that this director of technology is faced with. And no wonder she's losing her mind. She has to be working 80 hours a week to try to keep up with all of it. And it's never funneling to one centralized place. So Corey's first instinct was, let's get all this manual paperwork to the cloud with some centralization. So there wouldn't be that duplicate re-entry of data with that human error that Andrew was talking about. Another thing Corey was really focused on was to look for data self-entry to increase that accuracy. Now, there's the added benefit for the director of technology that they're not doing duplicate data entry, so there's time as well. So asking, in this case, the provider to enter the data themselves meant it was right. Their licensing numbers would be right, their addresses would be right, their phone numbers would be right. And this way the accuracy really would improve. And so that is one of the things that Corey was really looking at when he was designing this solution. And then finally, one of the other guiding principles that was used in this design was, how do we create automation rules to cut down on data entry duplication? So beyond what we talked about before, where the provider may enter, they may have the information, and then the director of technology or someone on her team had to enter the information. Now we're looking for ways that we can have automation that will carry throughout objects in Salesforce, so we wouldn't see a lot of duplication of data. Now, today's healthcare day is going to be a little different than what you'll see if you're joining us for life sciences tomorrow, or financial professional services on Thursday, or technology and SaaS on Friday, because for those, we have two separate demos. Today, when Corey was working on his demo, he realized, and this makes great sense since healthcare is such an integrated type of industry, that he could do one big demo that would wrap all these things up in a beautiful package for you all to see. So Andrew's now going to describe the second challenge that this particular company saw in a different person's role. So we're moving from the director of technology onto the VP of informatics. Andrew will describe that challenge. I'll tell you the solution, then Corey's going to show you a really magnificent demo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shannon. Great solutions. And this is really exciting because we get to see the same kind of issues in a very broad perspective from a couple different scenarios. So the VP of informatics, an incredibly important position, crucial to and detrimental to the success of the office. So providers and payers are onboarded manually, and the records are not populated automatically. So this is so common. Providers and payers being onboarded manually is something we see across the board from a lot of different industries. And the issue is that it creates this gap and lapse oftentimes that we don't have an assimilated and complete form. Records are not populated automatically is also very difficult because it once again opens us up to human error, but in a different scenario. When they're not populated quickly and automatically, it not only takes a lot of time and a lot of focus and understanding, it also can take away some of those lapses. So assets are tracked on paper and not in software. This is huge. It really is a huge problem with people. When it's not in the software and it's being tracked on paper, you can lose it. It can get destroyed. It can come up very messy. We might not be able to read the handwriting, as we said before. And that also introduces data integrity issues and challenges because, as we know, a piece of paper is not as secure as a computer these days. There was a time where maybe it was, and the computer, no one understood how to use it, and they might lock up a piece of paper. But nowadays, it's much, much, much safer to have it within that Salesforce system, within some place that keeps it secure and makes sure that it's not being corrupted. And onboard cadence and speed is unpredictable and often incomplete. This is incredibly crucial. A 360-degree view of the onboarding cadence and the speed and the way that you approach things is very important because you don't want those incomplete gaps. You don't want it to be unpredictable. You want to have a very good understanding of the way that the cadence works. So these are some huge challenges. Shannon, how can we fix them?
Yeah, these are big. I mean, they're giant. And Andrew, you'll remember we attended a virtual bio breakfast, and a CIO of a huge healthcare system said what he saw beginning in the middle of March was that people who were working in and around healthcare found themselves doing 2 decades worth of digital transformation and digitization in a matter of weeks, because people were trying to figure out, how can I work from home? How can I give my patients telehealth visits? How can I find out ways to make sure that our whole entire healthcare ecosystem, is representative of what we need now, that people don't want to leave their homes, don't want to sit in waiting rooms where they don't know the other people there. And so this particular VP of informatics said, hey, look, I've got to fix all of these problems. And so we sat down and used that same approach, that design, build, and test approach that allowed Corey to say, here's what we think will be really good design for you in terms of technology. We build it out and we iteratively test it alongside the VP of informatics. And in this case, since they were so tied, the director of technology as well. So we looked for ways to say, okay, you've got lots of onboarding to do. You've got new providers now who are going to be providing telemedicine. You've got new patients who are looking for new ways to experience a provider-patient interaction. And there's loads of data that you want to have in there in a way that's really controlled and very secure. So we looked for an automation that would say, there is a way for us to take all this information and get these triggers running inside of there so we know exactly where everybody is all of the time and no one's dropping the ball. Think about this. If you've got a new patient coming into your practice and you forget to do all the things that you need to do in terms of onboarding, you've lost a lot of ability, right? You've lost the ability to bill on time, to track that patient, to find out where they're going, and forget the added pressures that we see now of contact tracing and understanding a little bit more about people's holistic health, right? So Corey's approach here, which he'll show you, was how can we find automation for this onboarding, regardless of whether it was a payer, provider, patient, and get that data pre-filled. We also needed to find a way to create a cloud-based asset tracking. So what do we have? Where do we have it? And then how can we quickly report on it? Because we're also seeing management and stakeholders, they want way more information now. Forget the days where you could rifle through papers and say, this is the number of people that we saw, or look at a scheduling book and say, this is how many people passed through, or how many were no-shows. People want instant reports now because it has to be done. And we've seen loads of instances where people have missing data. And so now this was something that was really critical to this VP of informatics. And then the last thing the VP of informatics said he really needed was predictability and measured results for onboarding. So this had to be a good experience, not only for the internal team that would say, okay, we understand how onboarding is working. We know there are some triggers in here. This is going to go without us giving manual intervention, but we need to make sure it's going to work and feels good to the people on the other side too. So if we're going to onboard a new provider, we want them to have some sort of predictability. We can't take tons of time. We're now traveling at the speed of light. So this is going to be really exciting. I can't wait to pass this over to you, Corey. Corey Fry is, he spent a lot of time actually in a healthcare system himself. So when he was able to come to work for Cloud Adoption Solutions, we were so pleased to be able to get his whole entire experience to say, what are the biggest challenges on the side of a healthcare provider when you're looking at a healthcare system? What are their IT challenges? And so he brought that scope of knowledge to this particular challenge, and he's going to show that to you right now in his demo. Corey, welcome. Thank you so much for replicating this demo to show everybody today, because I think everyone's really going to be so excited about it.
Sure thing. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Andrew. So I'm sharing my screen. Can you guys see that? Cool. So kind of to set the stage a little bit here, I have an opportunity, and this client, we're going to onboard a provider, so a doctor's office. So I have this new opportunity that I made and filled out the fields. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close win this op. Maybe. And then when I closed one that, you see over here under onboardings, a new onboarding record was automatically created. So I'm going to go into this onboarding record. And as we can see, it's a new, the status is new. And some of these fields, some of the values pulled over from the opportunity. So the account name, the opportunity name, and the owner. And the rest of the fields are the fields that we're going to get from the form that's actually going to go to the provider's office. So this form URL gets populated as well. And for this demo, I'm using FormStack, the FormStack integration with Salesforce, but there are other integrations out there that would work as well. And just a little side note, both FormStack and Salesforce are HIPAA compliant, so we don't have to worry about any compliance issues there. So you can take this form URL that this created and send this to the provider's office. And then the provider admin or whoever at the office can fill out this form. And these are the same fields that were on the onboarding object, that onboarding record right here. Just in a little bit nicer, well, not necessarily nicer because I didn't do any editing here with the form, but this can be prettied up as much as you want. So we're going to select a contact, and this is actually a lookup into the Salesforce instance. And I have a couple contacts here. This is a list view of contacts. So you can limit what contacts can be seen on this form. And then say maybe this person is the office admin, and then there's a provider, and we're going to fill in the details for this provider now. So we're going to set a license number and a license state. And the office phone number. And this one is going to be a doctor onboarding record. And just put some generic data in here. And then if required, we're able to add a signature field. So Emily filled out this form and signed it and dated it today. And then this will get added to the record as a PDF, and I'll show that in a minute here. So after the form's filled out, I'm going to submit this. Gives you a little thank you message. And if I go back into Salesforce and refresh this, we can now see that this onboarding has changed to complete, and all these fields that I filled out on the form have come into Salesforce and populated this record. So this contact was actually a lookup, so the lookup field is there. You can click on that to get to this contact. All the other fields came in as I filled them out. And under the related tab here, there's notes and attachments, and this submission PDF it looks just like the form, only filled out, and then the signature down here at the bottom. So now that this onboarding record has been populated, you have all this data in Salesforce. There was no back and forth, no faxing of paperwork. You just sent them this link via email, and we could set up automation so that when this onboarding record gets created, this form URL could get automatically sent out to the provider's contact, which could live on the opportunity record or the account record. As long as we had an email somewhere, we could send that out directly to them. That way it would even be less manual effort. So then if we go to reports, we can report on these onboarding records. So I just built a simple report here, but basically showing us all the onboardings that have happened, the opportunity names. So this third one here is the one that we just did. And then the fields from that onboarding record as well. And we can add more fields or as needed. And then onboarding created date and last modified date. This will kind of show us the time it took between when that onboarding record was created and then the last time someone modified it. So if you wanted a pretty hands-off approach, and once you created that you closed that opportunity and then didn't touch the onboarding record again, then the last modified date would be when the form was actually submitted, so you could see the time between when that got created and then when the form got submitted, so that you can keep metrics that way. And this, so this is kind of how this scenario is set up, and we could definitely build this out further if we needed more fields, more automation. We can pull more fields from the account, contact opportunity, and really making that whole process of onboarding a provider or a patient much more streamlined, a lot quicker. No manual data entry there, other than the provider's office is entering that data into the form, but at least they are typing it in and not handwriting it again, with the handwriting being tough to decipher sometimes. So a lot more data integrity with a solution like this.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Corey. I really appreciate it. It was an excellent demo, and thank you so much. All right, so now we are going to go ahead and move over into some questions. So we do have a couple that have come in, and I want to go ahead and hand things on over to Shannon to go over the questions, and hopefully we can answer them and get to the bottom of some of the things.
I will definitely be excited to read you. We've got a couple of questions that have come in already, Corey, and thank you for sharing that demo. So the first question that we have is, what should healthcare companies be looking for in the Winter 21 release of Salesforce? That's a good one. That's a really good question. And I think that's always one of the biggest challenges we find in industries, is when Salesforce does their 3 releases a year, right? They do winter, spring, and summer, is digging through all those release notes and saying, how do I know what is going to impact me based in my industry? So Corey, I know you spend a lot of your time thinking about healthcare, so this is a really good question for you. I'm glad that somebody asked it. Thank you so much.
Sure. So a few things to look out for is Salesforce is actually streamlining their patient intake services. So they have some new reporting, some new objects within Health Cloud, and also some new Lightning app components that are specific to Health Cloud that they're going to be introducing.
I'm glad that you brought up the Lightning components. One of the things that we've been seeing still this year is a lot of companies who are playing between the Classic and Salesforce. That is something that we still see people doing. And I would continue to encourage everybody to look for ways that you can keep moving into Lightning, because Salesforce is really focused on, in fact, they're not even talking about Lightning migration anymore. Mark Benioff is saying, like, Lightning is just Salesforce. So when you say Salesforce, you mean Lightning. And the only way to distinguish the two is to call the other one Classic. So if you are a payer, provider, working with patients in the healthcare IT field, you definitely want to get yourself into Lightning as soon as possible. One of the things we really talk about here, because we're focused on Salesforce user adoption, is getting quick wins, doing it a bit at a time. So if you're looking to create something like Corey just showed you, where there's some automation and triggers, do that in Lightning and start to introduce people in small bites to say, okay, now some of you are using some pieces of Lightning. This winter 21 release, as they're putting new things out, they're certainly all going to be in Lightning, right, Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost goes without saying, but a lot of people are still living in Classic because they have muscle memory. And now that many people are working from home, although in the healthcare space, we see much more people heading into the office than, say, the people we're going to be talking to on Friday who are in tech companies. It feels uncomfortable to try to make that shift now, but we want to encourage you as a team. Like, I can see everybody nodding and smiling, like, just do it, because the innovation that Salesforce is giving you in that Lightning experience is pretty massive.
It's very incredible, and it's at a large scale too. So thank you so much. Shannon, do we have any other questions? I think we have one more that rolled in.
I do have another one that came into the chat, so I'm going to read that one out. And this is another one I think is just for Corey. How can I decide if I should build a custom object or use a standard object?
Oh, that's a little bit of a tricky one. I would say if there's a standard object that can meet your business needs with some minor modifications, such as adding fields, pick list values, things like that, then go with the standard one. It's already there. It takes less time since it's already built. But there are definitely a lot of cases where there isn't a standard object that works. So building one then would be the way to go. Again, it takes maybe a little more time to do that, but that way it's fully customizable with the fields you need and any lookups and related records that you would need.
Oh, that's great. I think that's really good advice in terms of custom versus standard. And I think that's something that sort of runs as an undercurrent in everything that we tell people about Salesforce is if it's native in Salesforce, use that one, right? That way you get the benefit of the 3 releases a year. Don't try to use a third-party app, whether you integrate it or iframe it in. If Salesforce can already do it natively, try to use that as a guide for your exploration to say, is it something that Salesforce is already supporting that we can just customize? Because then that way you get the really good benefit of the 3 times a year updates.
Definitely, totally agree there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like we don't have any other questions that are rolling in now, which is great. Hopefully that means that we just covered everything really, really well. Of course, if you guys do have any other questions, please feel free to email us. All of our emails will be, registered in the links, and we will have, more days to come. So tomorrow is actually going to be life sciences. So life sciences is really exciting. We have a lot of stuff planned. We're going to hear from a bunch of people, and it's going to be, really exciting content. So if you are signed up, we'll see you tomorrow. And, if you'd like to let anybody know, please do. Shannon, do we have anything else that we want to cover before we get off?
I am going to press a button that will automatically select somebody who is still on the phone to give a swag bag to, which actually includes the t-shirt that Andrew has on right now. So that will be fun. And a couple of other goodies. And that is Tony T. Tony, just send a direct message and let us know where you want us to send your swag bag to, and we will do that. So exciting. I actually know you, Tony, so hi, I'm happy to see you. Tomorrow, Natalie is going to be doing something really awesome for the life sciences folks. She has something that will help that contracts and proposals process, which if you're working with pharmaceutical companies or biotech companies, is one of the biggest challenges because proposal and contract volume is just massive. She's also got a really interesting approach to what sounds common, onboarding, but is a different solution than Corey's entirely. Helps to say like, all right, we've got a new client. How do we bring them over? And so that is going to be super exciting. So for those of you that joined today that are still planning on coming tomorrow, totally different day, new chance to win a swag bag. Corey, I want to thank you so much for all of the work that you did in building out this demo and coming up with a solution. I know particularly that Director of Technology and VP of Informatics have sent me personal messages saying you've changed their lives. I mean, who they were in January is totally different than who they are now. So a little bit of automation, design, build, and test goes a really long way, right? Thanks,
Definitely.
Andrew, for being a co-host today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much. And it does really go a long way. Thank you so much, everybody who joined today. And thank you, everybody on the team. I will see you guys later. But in the participants, please feel free to reach out to us, connect with us on LinkedIn, shoot us questions when you have them. We're always free to answer them. And of course, we're here for any Salesforce needs. So keep us in mind at Cloud Adoption Solutions. But thank you so much, everybody. What a great way to start the week. What an amazing kickoff. We can go ahead and sign off because we are all finished and complete. Guys, have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Thank you.